Let's take our hymn book again, Psalm 95, and we're going to begin in verse 8 today and run through verse 9. If you ever take time to go back to Genesis chapter 3, God had made everything that was very good. But the storyline goes like this, meaning it's true. The storyline is, but we know better than God. That's still true today. And when a Christian comes to that point, when churches come to that point, we are in deep trouble. And God, in his love, gives us warnings, and he gives us warnings out of history. And warnings are necessary, we might think, when you're teaching somebody about the highway code. Teach them what's important. If there is a red light, traffic light, in our country that is not a suggestion, it's a command. It's not only will keep you within the law, but ideally to stop hitting something that is coming the other way and cause great destruction. The psalmist says today, there is an immediacy about this. The psalmist knew you might be hearing from God today in his love with tremendous warning. And I believe that God is issuing us warnings in these days. Do not harden your hearts as you did at Meribah, as you did at Massa in the wilderness. Question for us, do we know what that's referring to, or do we just skip over it? Because if we don't know our history, we can't receive the warning in its fullness. You hear the voice of God and leave it out there. That's dangerous. It will quieten till one day you won't hear anymore. Do not harden your hearts. It's a heart issue, but what happened? Well, the people of God knew who they were. It's this identity. They had been called out of Egypt. They had seen the seas parted and split open, their enemies crushed. And then within 3 days, you might want at some stage to read Exodus 17. They're quarrelling, they're saying, yeah, we know we've seen God move, but is God with us or not? And it's an accusation against God's character. And God doesn't lose his temper, but he has had enough, and he's allowed to. And so their hearts become hardened. They become like the very Pharaoh that they were escaping. It wasn't all in a moment, but bit by bit by bit, they challenged God and their hearts were hardened. And for some, that meant, in fact for most, that was the end of their earthly ministry as they were going to experiences. Where your ancestors tested me, they tried me, though they had seen what I'd done. As Christians, as those that have lived the Easter mysteries, Jesus Christ crucified, dead, buried, risen from the dead, you know and I know what God has done. We need, as it were, to allow the Spirit of God, asking, marinate our hearts in what it is that he has done. And then let us confess our own lack of memory, which according to the scriptures can be very short. When we lose our memory, that's very sad today, but when we lose our memory personally with God, and when the church loses her memory corporately with God, it will be replaced with something else. Memory becomes hardness. Today, take the warning, today. But listen, if God is speaking, and at this moment he still is, then take that as a sign that his mercy and his grace can still be drawn on. Today, let us hear the voice of the Lord and obey.